We are so back, dude.
What's good? What's good? Sounding a little rough over there today, Jake.
Yeah. Woke up feeling a little sick, but that's just because we're working so hard.
You look great, bro. You can't tell you look great.
Oh, right. But what's even more great is the markets today, dude. You know what's funny is we were talking about how Zero Bro is going to zero, and that was the biggest winner yesterday.
I mean, it still went to zero. That doesn't change the fact that it went straight to zero. Like, just because you came back from zero and you're up 20% after going down 99% doesn't mean that you're the winner. You know what I mean?
Yeah, man. I think a lot of people just got absolutely short squeezed. Is what
just
happened.
a lesson for naming your protocol or your application. Just try and leave the word zero out of it. You might do better. Straight omen from the start.
I mean, if there was ever a sign that AI was going to lead the next, I would say the next cycle or the next wave, it's that whenever there's a bounce back, it seems like AI tokens of all sorts tend to be the largest gainers, even over memes.
Yeah, it's definitely what you look at to see like where the bids are, who outperforms from the lows, who outperforms in like kind of an offset setting. I mean that the AI sector, there's no doubt about it, got absolutely slaughtered over the last 6 months. Had some massive gains, the biggest outperformers in the market to the upside, and then I think that correlation kind of stayed, and it was like the biggest outperformers to the downside. So, I mean, some of these charts are wrecked. They're totally absolutely massacred. So, seeing some relief in them is pretty good after a couple of crazy months.
Yeah, look at this for DeFi AI. So Griffin and Zero Bro crushed it. Griffin's up 100% in 7 days. Look at Tensor and Agent Hustle's up 60% in 7 days. It was up to, it did hit like 2.2 million yesterday.
All-time high daily users, back to back, baby.
Yes, sir. I think we had it was like close to 200 different people on the site yesterday.
250, like 240 something.
Yeah. Monitoring. That means we're cooking. Yeah, at some point, the price will correlate to that. I'm still curious to know what like the average users are for something like Griffin or Heyanon or Wayfinder. But
I mean, to be honest, there's no way that they could be like dramatically more than us. You know what I mean? Like they could be pushing 1,000. They could be pushing like maybe 1,500, but there's no way they're in like the 5K, and there's no way they're in like the 10K daily users. That would be insane. There's not 10,000 people on the DeFi. I mean, there's just not.
Yeah.
I mean, there's just not.
Yeah.
There's no way that they could be like dramatically more than us. You know what I mean? Like they could be pushing 1,000. They could be pushing like maybe 1,500, but there's no way they're in like the 5K, and there's no way they're in like the 10K daily users. That would be insane. There's not.
Yeah. I'll be interested to see where this grows. But had a fun stream yesterday with Mr. Bunzy
That was
on
a heater.
stream. That was fun. Yeah, so we tested out some of the minting token metrics, which was fun. It's been proven that Agent Hustle is terrible at naming tokens. Absolutely horrific. So we're gonna have to add some creativity to this man in some capacity. He is quite bad at it. But
he named himself. So
he did name himself. He named Tensorium. Like that should have been the first sign. But it's okay. We actually found 3 tokens that all ended up going up like 50%. So I ended up selling all of them in profit, or 2 of them I ended up selling in profit for 40%, and then 1 I think I sold it like a 10% loss. But that was cool, to say the least. Bunzy quite impressed. He was like, "Wow, this is crazy that this has grown so much, so much more than the last time played around with this just a few months ago, or maybe even a few weeks ago."
Right. If you haven't seen the live streams at all, you should just hop on and just fast forward through them. Just kind of, push through them real quickly, skim through them. But they're so much fun. Like we use Hustle to kind of like find these early meme coins and things like that. But it's just to showcase all of the different possibilities that you can do with him. There's like such a wide range of applications you can kind of point him to, and different kind of strategies you can kind of just integrate him into your trading style. So pretty sick.
Getting some new holders. So look, I pulled up the Tensorium chart at 3,700 holders. So that's getting back. We're on the slope upwards for new holders, sitting at 1.9 million, hit a 2.2 million about. Maybe we get another higher close. That would be super bullish for the chart.
Throw that chart on the stream. The chart is an absolute banger.
Mm.
I mean, that thing
is
going to just rip.
I mean, that chart looks good, right?
Does chart it not looks ripping, bro.
It looks pretty good. So 3,700 holders, 96 people LPing. That's all the people who are participating in doing their directives. So, numbers look good. I think next month we're going to be showing off a new business model. Devs are cooking. Got a bunch of stuff in the background. Saw the first kind of hints at, first hints at a B2B product and some APIs, and hand that out to the nice, lovely people who are interested. And we'll continue to, grow the product out. Going to be a lot of fun.
Sir. What do you think about this sector as a whole? You've been in it day in and day out. We had some assumptions as to what this sector would kind of turn out to be. What is your kind of position after being in it every day and using Hustle every day? Is it as impactful as you thought that it would be, or that you think that it will be? Where are you at with it?
Yeah, I would say it's probably going to be even more impactful, to be honest. It's been growing quite fast, and I think it actually just reinsures everything that we had talked about 5-6 months ago, was that this is going to completely change the UX. We're seeing more builders enter the space, seeing a few new products come up. It seems like the AI space, or the DeFi AI space, is starting to kind of consume the rest of the AI market. You're just seeing more DeFi AI products. Some of them some of them are more like a companion or maybe specific use. I saw like an LP optimizer had popped up recently. I saw this morning that there was a specific bridge DeFi AI kind of protocol, but we positioned ourselves, as well as kind of like the 5 other ones, as this like general DeFi AI protocol, which I think is going to be increasingly more difficult to build maybe 4 or 5 months from now. Once the adoption rate just continues to grow. I mean, 200, 250 active users daily on this platform is small, but once there's this aha moment, or once you have automated trading or some of these other integrations, it's going to be hard for people to come in. They have to basically build these like niche kind of products, like what Magic Eden is going to do with a companion. I wouldn't be surprised if Uniswap or some of these other places come in and build their own companions to try to compete. But that's when it then gets interesting, when every marketplace, every exchange, every DeFi protocol has their own kind of in-house agent. And then you have to build these MCP servers so that all these agents can kind of connect. So you have like the Magic Eden companion communicating with the, Uniswap companion and kind of vice versa. Or maybe some of these protocols just decide that they want to isolate themselves and not participate in the agentic economy. What do you think is most likely to happen?
I think they have to communicate, right? They have to kind of find some way to kind of branch off each other and kind of, bring everything together. Looking at just like the progress that's been made, I mean, it's easy for us to see because we're obviously in the trenches every day. We do this for a living. This is what we spend every single day on. But I stepped back. I was like, man, it's kind of crazy that a lot of people aren't really getting this. Just kind of like they don't get like the cross-chain vision and things like that. But we're actually still in this era where people are just buying tokens and holding them. Like there's still not really anything to do on chain, let alone like across multiple blockchains. And so we're still in this world where most people just buy tokens and hold them. And so you don't really need an AI agent for that. But once these applications kind of sprout out on all these different blockchains, there's all these different things to do within these different ecosystems. Just automating and obfuscating like all that tech from the front end and pushing it through Agent Hustle so that he can kind of complete all these transactions for you. That's clearly like an absolute game changer. I mean, it's hard not to be like so excited about that type of future. And just like even like last year, years ago, we would have like only dreamt that something like this can exist. I can just type in natural language whatever complex transaction I want to be completed, and he'll do it for me on the back end. And all I have to do is say yes. That is like the most insane use case ever.
Yeah. Yeah, I completely agree. Right. So there's a few things that has to happen. You have to have this kind of like behavior change that generally takes sometimes years to do. It's just like for the great example is OpenSea, right? Everyone traded on OpenSea for NFTs for 2 years pretty consistently before any competitor really made a dent into it. And OpenSea still to this day dominates the majority of volume, even though a lot of people call it an inferior platform to Magic Eden. Although it seems like the tides, no pun intended, are starting to change. But it's the same with like Uniswap as well, or like Coinbase. So, changing the behavior from clicking around and bridging to using this terminal is going to be a little difficult. Also, I think there's this like deposit kind of aspect to it, which is a little bit different instead of just like kind of plugging in the web wallet. But it does seem like this is kind of the route that crypto is going, at least in the Bitcoin space and in the AI space, is that, you deposit your assets into these different ecosystems, just like you do an exchange. And then you kind of participate where, something like a Uniswap, it's like you have this web extension wallet and then you kind of just, connect it to the website and trade around. Although probably much safer to do the deposit route, right? Because you don't see anyone getting hacked depositing money into Coinbase, right? Or depositing money into a different app. So maybe a little bit better, but also another behavior change where the new net users who come in to crypto from here on out, they'll be familiar with AI. And also they won't know any of the previous history of it or the previous behaviors. So it just takes, 1 or 2 onboarding events or just like a whole nother cycle of new users to come in and really basically forget what the past is. Like for final example here is, I think the biggest turning point socially in crypto was the NFT side of things, where you had a bunch of these, I guess you just call them social media influencers, podcasters, TikTokers, et cetera, come in and basically radicalize the whole culture. And they didn't give a fuck what a maxi had to say, right? They just like didn't even know what a maxi was. To them, it was just like, I don't know, I'm just coming in and dominating. And their followers also didn't care either. So I think something like that has to happen to crypto. We don't know if that's going to take, a few months, or it could take a few years for that behavior to change.
Facts. I like to compare it to like the mobile wave. I mean, you just have to like changing behavior is difficult. There's no doubt about it. Changing human behavior is extremely difficult. But on the other side of it, it has to be worth it for the behavior change. Your product has to be 10 times better or 100 times better just to even move the needle to get people to move to switch over. And when the iPhone moment, the mobile wave to the iPhone moment was like the biggest in internet history. Everyone was I remember it pretty vividly. Everyone was a bit hesitant at first to move over from like a flip phone or a camera phone to an iPhone. But then like once you got your first taste of like playing games sideways and typing on an iPhone or using some of the random applications, it was like a no-brainer. And so the product was just like so much better that you had no choice but to move over. And I'm pretty sure that that is where we're at with crypto. Like when you take a step back and you look in hindsight, no one's going to be doing these transactions manually from blockchain to blockchain, from wallet to wallet. It's pretty clear to me that it's going to be type to interact or type to transact from natural language to on-chain transactions. And the user is just going to be speaking regularly to these AI assistants that are going to complete all the tasks for them. So I don't think we can be positioned better for this.
Yeah, eventually it'll be voice to on-chain transaction at some point. A new AI product I saw pop up yesterday was all over my timeline, and then I went to look into it, and there was like a mint that was happening on Magic Eden called Think Agents. And then one of my buddies from Mooncat community also sent me this morning and told me to look into it. So it's called Think Agents. It looks like it's kind of like an IP play of some sort. I did go to the website, and it honestly wasn't really kind of clear what's going on here, but it was all over my timeline. It says Think is an open protocol for AI agents. You can own, evolve, and personalize. It looks somewhat like an IP play. It says that Think connects AI agents to a growing network of open source tools, models, and protocols, making them smarter, more interoperable, and fully user owned. So they're essentially creating agents that act as NFTs, and they call them NFIs. It's called non-fungible intelligence, where I guess the NFT adapts to the AI in some capacity, or he's like they're merging these together and then trying to make these AI agents interoperable. They ended up raising, it looks like about 200 ETH so far. From this mint, it was it was a Think Agent bundle of 0.27 ETH. So they've done 200 so far. Inside of this NFT, you get the Think token, you get the NFI, the Think Agent NFT. So it's the first time I've really seen the combination of both of those. And you get access to their Souls Agent platform, which is some sort of like, kind of just looks like a ChatGPT type terminal where you can use it to create different types of things. Chris, did you happen to look into this at all? And what's your thought about, I thought the most interesting part was an NFI.
Yeah, it definitely popped up on my view on my timeline. I didn't look into it too much. I don't really like those like hype cycle segments where everyone's just kind of peering in at the same thing. But we discussed kind of wrapping hustle into an NFT or having access through the NFT to the AI through the NFT before. It honestly just seems like a lot more burdensome. So I think it's like a lot of like technical jumble that maybe doesn't need to exist, but we'll have to see how it evolves. But I didn't think that there was like too much to get excited about from first glance.
I think we're probably, no pun intended again on that, but it's going to see a lot more intelligence type experimentation over the next 6 months. Do you think that's bullish or bearish? Do you think it dilutes the whole overall identity? Do you think it brings new users? Obviously, then it comes with more grifters. But what's your thoughts on, maybe this is the first signs of new experimentation in the space?
Yeah, I think that it's just a signal of how early the DeFi AI and just the AI crypto sector is. You look back 6 months, none of this existed. There was no infrastructure. No one really knew what the crypto AI like intersection was going to look like. And we kind of had that first bubble that said, all right, there might be that first wave that said there's some innovation here. We're going to kind of like look into a bit closer. But I mean, if you look back to like the ICO bubble or the NFT bubble, there was always like a precursor kind of mini wave that started the bigger wave. And then the second bigger wave is when you get like Fortune 500 companies or big publicly traded companies changing their business styles to be NFT companies or to fulfill like these ICO promises. or in this upcoming one, it would be, you know, switching their model for crypto AI kind of powered business models. And I think that this is like one of the first examples of how people are just going to really market the hell out of it. Oh, this is crypto AI, blah, blah, blah. And I think that we're going to see a lot more jargon like that. This is kind of just an early runner.
Early runs. What about the, I guess you call them the OG tokens in the sector? Generally, when something like this happens, people just focus on new mints, but you have a lot of past OG companies, right? Obviously, Agent Hustle and Tensorium, things like Griffin, things like AIXBT, some of the kind of, you know, middle tier ones like you have like Ava and a handful of these other ones. You think these will catch bids and people will be interested, or you think there's just going to be a new focus on just new tokens because that's where the price goes?
I think that it's going to be kind of split because there's so much actual tech that needs to back these tokens at this point in time. The days of just kind of spinning up an AI chatbot and your token going to 50 or 100 million, I'm pretty sure that those are over. So whether it's new tokens that are launching or some of the OGs like Banker, Agent Hustle, all of these ones that have kind of been building through the down period, I think that you can actually see that there's real technology going on behind the scenes of these tokens. And so I think that obviously being early is important, but having the tech is the most important. So I think just kind of having real businesses, real technology, and then real people using the technology is what's going to differentiate the winners in the DeFi AI cycle.
Yeah, this is one that just launched on Pump Fund literally like a week ago. It's called Dark Research AI. I actually think Hustle found this on the live stream as well. But you see that it's called the Supercharge AI, and it just has a wait list, right? So it's like, but it is running. You get this speculation, but there isn't an actual product there yet. It just says that it's a TE network that's going to use MCPs in some capacity. So we could just see a lot of these, you know, hints at AI that then eventually just puts a sign up list, unfortunately.
I mean, I kind of like these gimmicky kind of all marketing type of front facing products because it really just lends more credibility to the teams that are building. You know, like there might be a short-lived pump on some of these things, but at the end of the day, everyone that kind of goes to that web page or that landing page sees that it's just kind of like a lot of empty promises and things like that. And then you have it just kind of like murkies the water to give people like us and Agent Hustle and Banker and some of these kind of top-notch DeFi AI protocols more time to build. Well, they kind of it's like a smokescreen. They're like they're shooting up the distractions for us. We're able to build all the way through it, and then we come out the other side. We have this amazing product that thousands of people have used, and it's only kind of going to get stronger from here on out.
So the Prophesied in the comments says Pump Fund has the first AI radio on the live stream. It's actually decent. I listened to a few hours yesterday. Can you tag the project? I'll maybe take a look into this.
Radio?
So
Is that what it is?
AI radio, I guess, on the live stream. So maybe because Pump Fund, I believe, started doing live streams again, but they have.
But like what type of radio? Like a radio station that plays music?
Maybe it's just like an AI that creates its own music, some nature. I mean, you could see some interesting experimentations, and this just like again gives even more credence to the intelligence cycle. And I say that very broadly, right? This is everything from combining AI with the attention kind of markets. This is the DeFi AI sector. This is MCPs and infrastructure. I know BitTensor has been on a run recently. I'm seeing it pop up a lot more because it has to do with like their subnets in some capacity. And agent to agent kind of communications is not even really even taken off yet.
Facts. And AI is the biggest opportunity that has like almost ever hit markets. If you think back to like the 2017 cycle, you had the famous example is like the Arizona iced tea changed its business model to be on the blockchain. Do you remember that? And like,
oh yeah,
AI is like 100 times bigger than that, right? You had some publicly traded companies kind of switching over to like an NFT model and trying to get like just even the marketing inbound from a business model change like that, whether it was just more in writing than it was in practice. But I mean, in my opinion, there's no way that you're not going to see a lot of these businesses try and at least upend their business models with AI, even if it is just for marketing purposes. We haven't gotten to that point of the cycle, but in my mind, there's no way that doesn't happen.
Yeah, just looking through the top 100, everything is pretty much green today. It is quite crazy. So good to the AI sector. We'll continue to build. Got a lot of fun integrations live. Team is absolutely deving. Again, yeah, I'm excited to put our new business model at some point next month so that we can really kind of take this to the next level.
If you want cool crypto products, just check out agenthustle.ai. Everyone says that they want cool crypto products. Just use a cool crypto product. It's free to use. Just check it out. It's fire.
Just check it out, man. I don't know if you saw this yesterday, but did you see that Jack Mallers is the CEO of this new Bitcoin fund? What is your take on that?
I don't know how is he just did he leave Strike? Did they buy Strike? Did he step down from CEO of Strike? I'm not sure, but this is clearly like a strategy twin, you know, for institutional Bitcoin leverage, it seems. I mean, these guys can build any company that they want, and they're building a MicroStrategy clone, which I think lends a lot of credibility to how innovative their business model is. And then on the back end, I think that this does kind of somewhat increase like the risk parameters of the leverage in Bitcoin over some time. Before we only had MicroStrategy, they were leveraging themselves to the gills through different kind of creative financing strategies, but to the tune of billions and billions of dollars. And now we're going to have like a second one to the tune of billions and billions of dollars. So at some point, we're definitely not there yet, but at some point there's definitely going to be a time to watch the leverage within the crypto system. And I think that these guys are someone to keep an eye on. You know, you don't want to have billions and billions and billions levered between just two kind of central points of failure, MicroStrategy and whatever this turns out to be, 21 Capital, I think.
Yeah. And so, you know, some of the names on this is kind of interesting. So you have Tether, or so the company itself is called 21, a Bitcoin native company through business combination with Cantor Equity Partners. So Cantor is Howard Lutnick's company, I believe, who is the secretary for the Trump administration. Obviously, Tether, they just have an insane amount of money just sitting around. And then SoftBank, which is the largest venture capital firm in the world, I believe.
Yep. And so Cantor Fitzgerald banks Tether. They were the original ones to bank Tether. So that's like the intersection there. And then SoftBank has been financing them.
Okay. Interesting. That makes
I don't know how Jack Mallers got in the mix, but what a dub. What a dub.
Yeah. So Jack Mallers, he's right here on Strike, which was a payment processor for Bitcoin. He also was the guy who got El Salvador to adopt Bitcoin. So he was the intermediary there. Was it 2 or 3 years ago at the Bitcoin conference when Jack Mallers did the presentation about El Salvador adopting Bitcoin? I mean, regardless on your opinions on whether it worked or not, like they still at least, you know, tried it out to see what would happen. So how many other companies are going to now start this? You have a company in China or in Japan. I forget what the Japanese company is. That is also buying a bunch of Bitcoin.
Planet something, right?
MetaPlanet is what it's called.
There you go. The best performing stock in the entire world last year. Crazy.
It's crazy. In other news as well, Soul Strategies. I've never even heard of this company. Today they secured a $500 million convertible note to buy Soul. So now they're basically doing the same thing that MicroStrategy is doing, but with Solana.
Is this this is a publicly traded company?
I believe so. It has a publicly traded Solana infrastructure company bridging TradFi with the Solana ecosystem. The ticker is HOLD or HODL.
I think there was I think that this is a second one. I think one went live with the same business model for Solana maybe 2 weeks ago. and it had like an opening price of like $4, ended up the day at like 40 something dollars. I think it started with a J. So I think just the buying hard assets backed by revenue for traditional companies seems to be the hot ticket item of the year. And so, I mean, it was in my predictions that we would see this with Ethereum. It's clear that we'll see with Solana. At some point down the list, it doesn't really work, but with these really desirable hard assets, Solana, Bitcoin, Ethereum, it kind of seems like this is the wave, and it's kind of a good way to financially engineer your way into a ton of hard assets backed by your company's revenues.
So formerly, excuse me, feeling a little under the weather today. So it's formerly Cypherpunk Holdings, a publicly traded Canadian company dedicated to investing and providing infrastructure for Solana blockchain. 500 million, convertible note. The facility marks its first of a kind digital asset financing capital, elusively earmarked for purchasing Solana tokens. So it looks like the initial closing is expected in May 1st. So there'll be a lot of buy pressure for Solana. Final note here, it says that in this novel structure, interest of the notes will be paid in SOL, calculated as up to 85% of the staking yield generated by SOL acquired through. So they're going to basically buy Solana, stake it, and then take the yield to pay back the investors. I mean, that's not something that you can really do with Bitcoin. I guess you'd have to do it more in like a traditional sense. You couldn't do it completely on chain.
Right. And it's just kind of crazy to see Ethereum asleep at the wheel here again. Not only are they kind of getting beat on the tech side, they're kind of getting beat on all the surrounding kind of infrastructure sides. Ethereum was my bet to have the next like Michael Saylor-esque type of business model, and it seems like Solana is just going to keep on beating them to the punch. I don't know what they're doing over there at the Ethereum Foundation.
Just absolutely getting dominated. So you think then on the long tail, like what other chains do you think companies would want to acquire? Maybe Doge was like the fourth that really comes to mind. And maybe Litecoin, like the proof of work assets. I don't know if this really works for any other proof of stake coins.
Facts. I mean, XRP, you have to have the right supply distributions, right? You don't have an entity buying from the market side and then the team just like nuking from their treasury. That like would be ridiculous. So I think XRP is kind of out of the question. Bitcoin, Ethereum, Dogecoin would be pretty interesting. I think that would be a solid play. Their inflation rate is pretty high, but I mean, it's maintained its kind of value pretty consistently over the years. And then after that, I feel like the assets, just like long tail risk, is too high. Maybe BNB, but once again, you have kind of like that concentrated supply from the team that makes it kind of unattractive for anyone that's not the team to acquire like large percentages of the supply, because you don't have confidence that the team is going to have the same holding strategy that you will.
Yeah, I completely agree as well. Also with Doge, the inflation every year decreases because it's just producing the same amount of, I think it's 1,440 Doge per block. And every block is a minute or something. Maybe, I think it's like every minute, I believe. So Elon Musk had said he actually liked this dynamic because over time it actually makes Dogecoin more stable, because you need inflation for a currency to be used as a value, or a monetary unit of transfer. And over time, the inflation rate is at 10%, 20 years down the road, it's actually like 1% or 2%, and it becomes a little bit more stable. So he's looking at it on the long term, because obviously he wants Doge to be the currency of Mars.
Right. And if you're going to do a strategy like this, you definitely want to pick a unique asset that kind of is like not replicable by anything else. And Doge is completely unique, right? One of the oldest crypto assets, has been through more cycles than even Ethereum has been through. In terms of distribution, has one of the broadest distributions of any crypto asset in the entire market. So yeah, there's probably a handful of crypto assets that you can run this playbook with. I'm sure that we'll see them all come onto the market over the next year.
Yesterday, we also saw I guess you'd say maybe first pro Bitcoin SEC chair Paul Atkins, who was added to the SEC chairmanship. he in his presentation he vowed that crypto, regulatory foundation he wanted to provide a firm regulatory foundation for digital assets, and that it's its top priority. This is something that the Trump administration has been talking about already for a long time. We also knew that Paul Atkins was going to take over for about a month or two. Do you think that there's, this adds any extra volatility to the market or any other firm kind of strength? Or is this just kind of like, business as usual? We knew that this is coming, and it's just good to see that Paul Atkins is
it's good
sharing.
to see. I don't know if we can claim that he's the first pro Bitcoin SEC chair.
Oh boy.
Because Gary Gensler he took the cake. He was the first pro Bitcoin SEC chair. And although that kind of reign didn't really turn out the way that we thought it would, when Gary Gensler was originally sworn in as SEC chair, he was like championed by the industry. We really thought that he would be just a great steward of crypto and Bitcoin in general. It turns out to be a complete nightmare. So I don't think that he is the first kind of pro crypto SEC chair, but I think that the developments on the regulatory side are super underpriced. We're going from legitimately the most hostile regulatory environment, being the United States, towards crypto out of any region in the entire world, which is insane, to one of the most friendly regulatory environments. So I really don't think that that's been priced in. There's an all-star team of crypto proponents in the administration, and it's just really hard to imagine that we've come this far and that we have an entire pro-crypto kind of establishment. This happened way sooner than I think that we would have ever planned. And I think just moving the needle from completely hostile towards the industry to completely friendly and encouraging to the industry, I don't think that's anywhere near priced in for where we are today.
Man, bullish for whenever that time finally does come, or we get this market structure bill.
And I mean, like Bitcoin's like $90,000. Like, I mean, you can't be bearish with $90,000 Bitcoin. You know what I mean? Like sometimes we get so far ahead of ourselves that we forget to see how far we've come.
Yeah. I don't know if you saw, but Bitcoin actually just surpassed Google again. I think that's happened before. Now it's like the 5th most valuable asset in the world. I guess they also throw equities and gold. But now the only thing that's changed is gold is almost twice as high as last time. So crazy. I think Bitcoin actually now, if gold holds up around 3,500, then I think actually Bitcoin has to go over $1 million to surpass gold.
Yeah. And, it was extremely bullish for digital gold when gold was $12 billion. If Bitcoin can only get to half of gold's market cap, we would be living the life, right? Well, now gold has 2x'd. Gold is now $24 trillion, and Bitcoin is still around $1 trillion. So that gap is going to close one way or the other. I don't think it's going to be extremely hard for a ton of selling pressure to come on the market to push gold back to where it was, like in the $2,300-$2,400 range. And so I think like the logical path of least resistance is for Bitcoin to kind of catch some of that upside. That the higher that gold goes, obviously the more marginal the returns become, and investors are kind of going to be looking for something with more juice on the return profile.
Yep, some more juice. And in terms of selling pressure, today was a big airdrop for those who hate content coins. I don't know if you saw this, but Zora did their airdrop today. Not a single post from their official account about the airdrop being live. Apparently, users had to go through the smart contract to claim it. There's no link on their website about the airdrop, and the token has just gone pretty much straight down the entire time. And everyone is absolutely furious. Even Zach XBT got in on here and he went and claimed his tokens and then kind of donated it to the market. The chart literally just looks straight down. Those are not everyone who's everyone's now dancing on Jesse's grave. Some people are saying that he needs to be fired for basically leading people to the slaughterhouse. Whereas Zora now announced it recently, but they announced it now. It looks like a few hours after the token actually went live.
I was thinking about just Jesse and the base team and like just their performance over the last week or 2 weeks and all these like random unforced errors and just like cultivating all this drama on the timeline. And at first I was kind of like, what the hell are they doing? Usually they're so kind of professional and really tight knit. And obviously they've gone rogue. But in terms of like the attention on base, there's never been more attention on base than there is at this very moment, I don't think. And so in a weird roundabout way, I think that like Jesse's actually doing a phenomenal job. And I mean, I didn't even know that this was the airdrop. I thought that they just launched the Zora token finally, which I kind of tweeted a couple of days ago. They should either, if they believe in tokenizing the world, they should start with their platform. Zora and Base itself should launch their token, not whatever content coins they've been launching. But in terms of just attention on Base, I don't think that there's ever been more attention on Base than there is today.
Yeah, the community is absolutely furious. Apparently, Zora raised $60 million. $40 million of that was from Coinbase, apparently. Farm users for 5 years straight. These are just people kind of talking about it. Decides to launch a meme coin. 70% of their meme coin is allocated to their team. Hire Jesse Pollock to bring in exit liquidity in the name of content coins. Sell out to Binance users. No tweets or announcements for the first few hours of an airdrop or of the claims. Users have to go. Users had to go literally into the smart contract to go in and check. So there is some sort of tracker. I guess you can go ahead now and kind of claim your stuff. I never really used Zora before, but I remember they've been on this tirade for a while now. They're even doing this last year in terms of trying to tokenize things, tokenize everything. Do you like the idea? Do you think, is this like meme coin on steroids? Do we need to tokenize everything? I know the kind of running thesis is that he wants to pay artists and creators. We touched on it a little bit, but now that I guess the hype is done, do you think that this has some legs, or is it going to transform into something else?
It's definitely gimmicky. It's definitely like high level marketing gimmicky, getting people to kind of familiarize themselves of the product through like these weird roundabout conclusions. Do I think that everything needs to be tokenized? I don't know. We've had this vision for many years that everything would be tokenized. I just think starting from the bottom up for useless shit is kind of pointless, and we should start with like the most important things first. I don't think we've tried to tokenize tweets before. I don't think that really worked, but I think that Coinbase just always has the upper hand here because they have 100 million users. We can mock the Zora coin all we want, but at the end of the day, they can always have the last laugh by just adding Zora to the Coinbase platform, and the token probably outperforms from there. You know what I mean? So they have just such a tool belt of like strings to pull that regardless of like whatever their actions are, they're backed by a public company that is like $80 billion in market cap, and they have one of like the smartest engineering teams in the industry that's been building since 2012. So regardless of how many missteps that they can make, I think that at this point, almost everything that they can do can be easily turned into like a net positive for the Coinbase or the Base network.
Yeah. Base, man, still competing. Maybe they feel a little bit of pressure and fire on their heels from Abstract.
Do you think so?
I don't know. I mean, they have a lot going for them right now. Obviously, I've seen this kind of conversation on the timeline recently about how Solana is building, for the world, and Base is building for Coinbase, right? For Coinbase users, which I think is right. And I don't think there's an issue with that because L2s are more hyper focused for whatever the kind of users are. It does feel like Abstract is building, I guess, more along the lines for the world, but they're building more for, they called it what they call it before? The creator hub or something like that. they're building more towards kind of the younger generation. I don't know if it's necessarily for everyone. And Base has a lot going for it, which is Banker is doing pretty well. You have Virtuals that's on there. It's kind of crashed, but I'm sure they'll kind of figure it out over time. I still don't know if they've had the quote unquote killer app yet, but they're always going to have users. Maybe it's like the Jesse thing. It just confuses me a little bit. I know there's a lot of attention, but to me, it just feels like Base now feels more directionless than ever. Like are you this like general purpose L2? Are you building for Coinbase? Do you want pimping on Base, right? Like they say, even though that they don't allow sex workers to have accounts in Coinbase, it just, I'm sure like, the attention's there, and crypto, everyone has such a short attention span that people will forget the whole Zora thing happened a month from now. But man, I don't know. I think Jesse's kind of stained himself a little bit on this from a personal standpoint. I don't know. I mean, maybe I guess it's just like performance art or performance marketing, but this whole thing just leaves me a little bit more confused looking at Base than I did before.
I can see it, but most people didn't even have like an opinion on Base before, and at least now maybe they do. Whether that's good or bad, at least like they have some sort of thought like sink into it. And I just feel like they have such a war chest of opportunities. Like Coinbase Ventures is one of the oldest and best early stage investors in the crypto industry. How difficult is it for their GPs to get, a quarter of those companies to start building on Base, or just their newer companies to be building on the Base network solely? And so I think that they just have so much opportunity. It's really hard to fumble. And I think at this point, all marketing is just kind of good for them, because we went from it being kind of this roundabout abstract layer 2 that no one really cared about. And now I feel like Base has more momentum than Ethereum has, even though it's built on Ethereum. So I kind of have like a different perspective than you do. And I think that that's kind of throughout the entire industry now. Every individual has their own kind of opinion on Base, and I don't think they used to. So I think in a roundabout way, they've actually done the job that needed to be done.
Yeah. I feel the same. The L2 space, a little confusing. Ethereum's still a little bit confusing, but it's still going to be there. I think it'll
in
still.
Today's world, would you rather be managing, if you were in charge of maybe the Ethereum Foundation or in charge of like the Base Foundation? Like which job would you rather have? Which one do you think would be the easier path to success?
Base for sure would be
Same.
easier.
100%.
I would personally rather be on the Ethereum Foundation because I think it's much more challenging and it has much more broader objectives, but also can have much further impact.
Yeah.
Right. With Base, it'd be more of kind of like you feel like you're on like a corporate board of some sort. But
I think that's true.
But overall, I think they're honestly kind of one of the same for now. I saw this like comparison the other day, and you see this happen a lot where you see this like Solana versus ETH comparison. It's like Solana is doing more fees than all these other chains combined. It's taking TVL and stuff. And then somebody else will come back and say, well, you should include these L2s on top of Ethereum, right? Because they're bridged and they're doing DA and all these different things. And when you look at it from that sense, right? Obviously Ethereum has a much wider gap, but it's different ecosystem. So, it's more of a philosophical kind of point. But if you do think that Ethereum is going to grow out this idea of, thousands of L2s, then obviously this is going to win, right? In terms of all these different metrics. But I think it's horrifically losing the culture war right now. Like bad. It is very bad. Whether that's the bottom or it's just a tailwind and a spin to zero, who really knows? I think Ethereum will be here for a long time, but the value accrual to the token. One final thing here, I saw an interesting comparison. It's from somebody this morning, said that Ethereum is going through the same issue that Cosmos has gone through for the last 10 years.
No way.
Which is trying to figure out how to, build value accrual to the base or to the network token. And Cosmos kind of the same, right? They just do app chains, whereas Ethereum does L2s, and then on top of the L2s are the app chains. And Cosmos was never able to figure out how to, add value to the token. But there's so many teams build with Cosmos. Like there's tons of L2 or there's tons of app chains that use Cosmos under the hood for their chain.
I don't know. I don't think that Cosmos ever had any like real market penetration, especially compared to Ethereum. Ethereum owned the entire market. They had the most token value accrual. They had the most developers on chain. I think that's just like a bad comparison. I think the only problem that Ethereum has is a price problem. So the Ethereum Foundation should be doing everything that they can to find a way to get the price up, because so much of the industry has been invested in them, and price is just such a like confidence metric in it, even though it maybe shouldn't be. That's kind of what it comes down to. And so if Ethereum was at $6,000 today, or $5,000 today, or $7,500 today, these conversations would be totally different. They would be totally different. And so I think just more than anything, it's a price problem. And I just don't think that that's like that difficult to solve in the stage that crypto is, with so much institutional capital on the sidelines ready to be kind of put into the market, and retail investor sentiment kind of towards crypto probably at the highest it's ever been. It's just hard for me to get bearish on something like Ethereum when so much of the industry and just the investing industry in general is narrative based. So, and a narrative can turn on at any single point in time. Like a lot of these stocks are just stories. Like, Tesla is not a stock of revenues. It's a stock of storytelling and what the vision, the end goal might hold. And I think crypto, more than anything, is that similar thing. You don't price it on what it can do today, but what it has the possibility to be in the future. And I think crypto Twitter is kind of underwritten or written off Ethereum far too quickly for kind of the dramatic impact that it's had on the world so far, and what it might eventually have in the world.
Yep, I completely agree. Markets are always forward looking. And speaking of kind of this L2, the L2 era of Ethereum, Fantasy Top, which was, I would say, probably the top app that came out of the Blast ecosystem. I don't even know if is it still on Blast? I'm not really quite sure, to be honest. Looks like they're moving to Monad potentially. They announced yesterday that they're introducing Clout to their fantasy seasons. They basically built like their own Yaps version and integrated it into Fantasy Top. I even had the founder retweeted my post yesterday about this, where it's just you sign up your Twitter account, you get these kind of excuse me, you get these points for just tweeting. They call it Clout. And then I think it's every week the top 15 people, or the top 15 highest Clout gainers, then become the hero cards within their fantasy deck for you to be played within their game. So it seems like this idea of like tokenized mindshare is just continuing to proliferate throughout the industry in a variety of ways. People are using Kaido to, farm these new ecosystems, see who so it's great for kind of influencers and people who essentially aren't tied to a specific company. They could go into Kaido, open these pre-TGE boards and start tweeting about these different chains and be rewarded in either payouts or tokens. And now Fantasy Top's taking the same idea, where they're taking your tokenized mindshare from Twitter, applying that to their game to become the hero card, which is essentially like the top kind of premier person to be played in their fantasy game. And kind of how Fantasy Top works is you have these like 4 different rarities of these different Twitter profiles. And then during we'll just say like a week period when they do these tournaments, you then get points based off of how your engagement does kind of on Twitter. What's your thoughts on tokenized mindshare continuing to be utilized in different types of ways? And also mindshare is an AI crypto creation, but in terms of attention, less about financialization.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's interesting to kind of gamify everything and financialize everything, and kind of lends like credence to like what I would consider like a simulation theory, where somehow we ended up as like crypto investors, we ended up as these personalities online, and then day by day we just get more intertwined within the internet. And then now these random personality characters are playing fantasy top within like an actual strategy game as, you know, the player cards and things like that. Just kind of seems like extremely futuristic. And just if you take a step back and look at where this is going in the future, your personality is going to be put on a blockchain and you're going to be a trading card for X, Y, and Z. And it just seems like really kind of profound. And I think that it needs to exist. And I think over the past year that it's existed or so, I think that it's been one of the most like highly rated crypto apps where it just has a ton of users checking back in every single day just to play it. I think having that staying power is super difficult.
Yeah, I was playing it for a while. It was pretty fun. It becomes tiresome if you're the creator who, you know, you have to earn points for tweeting, and then also you have to earn points for the people who are holding your card. But then you can also earn revenue from it. It's this whole other element of the game that you have to, as somebody who has a large account, you have to kind of take into consideration. Honestly, though, during like the beginning of this year playing the Kaido stuff, it honestly got me to tweet even more, which probably had a positive impact on everything that I was doing and within the company. So I think overall positive, but man, if you don't know how to handle pressure, probably a negative tailwind spin downwards. Like it is going to send you out to crash out, as some of these people do.
Instead of like having, well, I guess in tandem with, you know, being kind of a personality online, having people want you to pump their bags net, and then on top of that, they want you to just be tweeting all the time about everything. Like, hey, you haven't posted today. What's going on? I have you in my fantasy top. Like, we need you earning points out there. So, like you said, a lot of pressure, but pretty funny just to be relied upon for these random things in this niche internet industry.
Yep. So as we've been talking, the Trump coin pumped from $9 to $12 or $13. From what I'm seeing, it's that Trump is announcing that he's going to host a dinner with the top 220 holders of the Trump meme coin. I don't know if it's true or not. Cleo says it's true. I need to do a little bit more research, but what do you think of this, if this is true, where he's actually now, not only has he acknowledged that the meme coin exists, but he's now actually acting upon different types of utility for the meme coin itself?
I'm a Trump coin fan. Obviously, it's going to be volatile. It kind of coincides with how the perception of his presidency is going. But on top of that, he's the first crypto president. He's like the biggest kind of name or character that's ever launched his own token. And he's a world leader that has the first presidential token. I think like just from an individual token standpoint, I think it's like one of the most interesting. That being said, I'm pretty sure that they have some unlocks recently, or they're about to have some unlocks. So I'd be a bit like cautious to buy into any kind of pump on, you know, major pump like this out of the blue. But he did the dinners with the NFT holders. You can kind of expect probably a similar playbook. But at the end of the day, with something like a Trump coin, you're betting that he cares more about the like glamour than he does like the money. And how much money is it worth for the Trump family to have the Trump token as one of the top coins on CoinMarketCap? That's kind of like the original bet that I had. And I think he cares more about legacy than he does like, you know, the money at this point. So I think I wouldn't expect him to just nuke the token to zero. And I would kind of expect him to have more like a long-term stance on seeing that Trump token up there with like the Ethereums or the BNBs of the world. And I don't think that that's too far-fetched of kind of an opportunity.
Yep. So it does seem like this rumor is actually true. I'm seeing this from multiple accounts and crypto. Multiple crypto accounts, publications, that this Trump dinner is a real thing. And that you get to have dinner with President Trump, the most exclusive invitation in the world, only the top 220 coin holders. So you need to have, it looks like about 300,000 in holdings. I believe during the election cycle, he was selling meetings for like $1 million or something like that. I think it was like $1 million in donations or something like that to have lunch with him during the campaign season. So, sounds about right in the realm of holders. And final point, This was during our call that they just announced that Yuga Labs just announced Ape Fest is going to be in Vegas next year, where we live. Should we go hang out with the apes next year?
I don't know. Maybe we'll go out of town. We'll hit the beach or something. I don't know. I don't know if we need a bunch of apes making a mess of the city.
Oh man, Bitcoin Vegas though. Next month, Ross is now the headline speaker. Any expectations or thoughts on Ross's first ever public speech since being in jail for 11 or prison for 11 years? What do you think? Yeah. What do you think about that?
I think it's well deserved that it's happening at Bitcoin Vegas, or just the Bitcoin conference in general. I saw that he was married. You see that?
I didn't see that as well.
I didn't know that. How long has he been married for? How did he get married? That was a curveball that guy sent me. I was like, all right, how the hell did Ross get married? When did this happen? That's crazy. No one ever knew when he would get out of jail. So I don't know how long he's been married for.
This guy's got to be set for life with all the Bitcoin donations that he's got.
I mean, he deserves it, right? He was a martyr for the industry, so no one deserves it more than Ross. It's tough to even just kind of look at photos of him. I mean, just like almost like an empty shadow of what he used to be. You can just see it in his eyes, but it'll take time for him to just kind of like rediscover civilization and outside society. But I mean, no amount of money is worth losing your soul, and he seems kind of soulless,
If I had to open up a poly market bet right now on over under Ross starts his own crypto project in the next 5 years.
Oh, dude, that's like a guarantee.
Think a guaranteed?
Yeah, 100%.
You think he does Silk Road too?
I mean, that would. I wonder, how strong his development skills are in this environment, after not developing for a decade. That would be interesting. But I mean, he's either going to get a pretty cozy C-suite job at a high-level crypto company, or he's going to launch his own. But I don't know. I mean, a Silk Road 2 would just be the craziest timeline ever. He just runs it back. You see that a lot where people get out of prison. They just do the same thing that they did the first time to get back.
Yeah, because now they got the clout, right? Now they have the backing. I think people would definitely back that as well. A privacy.
Funny like comparison, which is not a good one, but just reminded me of it, is like the Fire Festival guy.
That's what I was thinking too.
He launched Fire Festival and obviously nuked his whole reputation, sent him to jail, and then he got out of jail and just launched Fire Festival 2, and then couldn't even make it happen, had to refund the tickets again. He's just a Silk Road 2. I mean, does the market demand something like that? I think like dark markets are something that the market demands. I don't know if it'll be the one to spin up the next biggest one, but I think going forward into the future, I think those are definitely going to exist more prevalently than they do today.
Yep, I agree. Silk Road 2, you heard it here. Ross will be your first backers. We take 1% commission because we gave you the idea.
A16Z would like give him $1 billion instantly overnight for whatever he wants to do. So,
final point here. So, speaking of AI16Z, A16Z just purchased 55 million tokens from Layer 0. And this, I guess it was through their treasury, but this is now their third investment. A16Z says that they totally believe in the vision. They're doubling down on it. They did the 2 different equity rounds, and now they have purchased the tokens OTC. Do you think this is actually them backing this, or is it them DCAing into an underwater position and presenting it as that they have the utmost belief in this product?
I mean, I don't know if A16Z like has that much belief in anyone, but maybe they're overcommitted. I mean, maybe Layer 0 is just bleeding cash and they needed to find a way to get more funding through the door. I don't know how these companies burn these insane runways to the ground, but $55 million raise for Layer 0. Emblem Vault doesn't have anywhere near a $55 million raise, and we're still competing on the same plane that they are. So A16Z, what's going on?
What is going on? They have over 100 people. We do have a line of communication with them. Cool protocol. I don't know how they make revenue, to be honest. That's kind of always been the big question there.
Get it from A16Z. That's
yeah.
That's their main source of revenue.
So you get in this never-ending funding cycle. But cool for interoperability and cool for AI. It becomes more clear every day that both of these things are going to have a major collision here over the next few years, and it's going to be the most obvious thing that we've been talking about for years on this channel and building for years with this company. Until then, we're wrapping up today. Everyone, please enjoy your Wednesday. We'll be back tomorrow at 11:30 a.m. Eastern time.
And check out Agent Hustle. Guys, check out agenthustle.ai. It's a banger. It's a sick platform. It's free to use, and it's super easy. You can get started in like 5 seconds. It's super fun. If you are curious about AI or wonder where the industry, crypto industry, with intersection of AI is going, check out agenthustle.ai. You will be like, wow, this is next level. So hit it up.
Hit it up. Play with it. Make some money. And realize where the future is going. Everyone have a good and safe Wednesday. We'll see you tomorrow.
Peace.